Warning, this is going to be an extremely long video, if I include everything I'm planning to. So get comfortable, grab yourself a cup of spleen or whatever it is you monkey people drink, and put me on in the background while you play a low intensity game. I'm here for the long haul and I hope I can count on some of you to join me all the way to the end. Also, I have recently found a bit of easy editing software, so this is going to be my debut in those brand new skills. I'm about to get political, and I will try to keep everything I say as clear as I can. This goal might not be possible considering the topics pertaining to the larger politics I'm about to cover. I am not a political guy. I wish the fucking leeches in government would quit or flagellate themselves without mercy for the harms they have, every one of them, done to our societies. I would say I'm an anarchist by the modern definition, but the truth is I'm a traditional democracy advocate. As far as I'm concerned, our governments must be forced to submit to the rule of the people, forced as our public servants to play fair and do what we want, and only what we want. In my picture of a better future, this system would include sortition. Sortition. In governance, sortition is the selection of political officials as a random sample from a larger pool of candidates. The logic behind this sortition process originates from the idea that power corrupts, and for that reason, when the time came to choose individuals to be assigned to empowering positions, the ancient Athenians resorted to choosing by lot. It also includes a secure internet-like network, probably using Linux, on which everyone can discuss and vote about everything, and from which our randomly chosen public servants receive their marching orders. I got the idea for sortition from Stephen Fry. I have a lot to get through during this video because politics is a shitstorm of false dichotomies and outright lies. The fact that mainstream media has forgotten their job was, and always should have been, to hold the politicians to account, not over raunchy pictures or sex scandals, haircuts, and other nonsense shit that has nothing to do with the real topics at hand, their original responsibility making sure the government doesn't get away with fucking murder, and of course watching themselves and holding each other to account. They seem to have forgotten what the word research means. Those boys in the US who were confronted by a lying entitled old man who just happened to be a war veteran for a war he apparently didn't attend, that fucker's whole story was a lie, and the mainstream media did fuck all research, or they chose to ignore the large quantity of footage available from the day. A bunch of shameless freak old shits confronting children. Those wrinkly farts must have microscopically small penises, or they never get erect or something. They are certainly compensating for something. It's word games, piled on word games, piled on horse manure all the way down. I'll start with US politics because anyone who speaks English and spends any amount of time on the internet is heavily exposed to it. And the politics of the United States of America affect the entire world through their actions in the UN and other subtle pressures through international companies, etc. The reason I bring this up just before I bring up the politics of my own country, South Africa, is because that influence reaches here very quickly. Sometimes rhetoric that begins in the US and makes its way to RSA is good, such as the call for equality that was bolstered by rock and pop stars of the 80s and 90s. Sanctions happened, and South Africa became self-sufficient. Internal problems happened, and eventually this country broke in the right way. So now, I think I should talk about my own experiences with politics. The tiny, discouraging and feeble experience of it in my own life. Politics, the grand soap opera that screws everyone in every orifice. I was born in the Republic of South Africa, December 27th, 1982, Johannesburg, Gauteng. My father, a training pastor, and my mother worked. Eventually we moved to Durban, in the then Natal, and now KwaZulu-Natal. My parents would watch news, but of course it would all go over my head. other than to know that there were serious political things going on, and especially up to the year of 1994. I was 11 years old, unable to vote, but I was told, along with every other child around me, particularly, that history is being made. A very young Christian, I was joyful that all of God's people in the country would finally be equal. I started voting as soon as I could, and have voted for the opposition of the ANC every possible chance I got, because I believe in democracy, and healthy democracy is supposed to be challenged by intensive, comprehensive, and well-researched opposition. And the way to keep that going in any country with a vote is to vote for the opposition. The difficulty in South Africa is the fact that there are so many different parties, with some only mildly varying views and other drastically varying views. So I voted for the people I thought would hopefully oppose dangerous calls by the ANC's majority, the DA. The moment they started considering land reforms without compensation a good idea, I felt a bit like a lost fart, and I would probably vote for someone else if I can in the next election. I thought I had a basic handle of politics. I thought I understood how a healthy democracy is supposed to work. But yeah, I've given up. I have been defeated. People talk about free speech as if it is optional and restrictable. And in fact, it is. We demonstrated its restrictions all the time. Compartmentalize when we aren't restricting it, such as in the fashion on the internet. Even places that pretend to supply free speech, such as 4chan, compartmentalize that speech. And many places will penalize you if you sway too far from this agreed upon topic. Compartmentalizing isn't necessarily good or bad, it just is. Similar to the concept of professional specializations, it has unfortunate and glaring weaknesses and some great advantages. I admit the thing I care about the most politically is free speech. As an artist, both graphic and musical, and with the appreciation of others who do the same. I know the danger speech policing can pose to all artistic lives. As an artist, I have never really considered myself funny, but comedy is the first artistic life to feel the pull of restrictive speech. We feel it all together, but the comedians are often the first to feel the whip of the speech slavers. Some flourish, those willing to toe the line, and those inclined to at least mostly agree with the accepted rhetoric. And this is important. All art is a mirror to the world in which it is created, from the perspective of the artist creating it, unless the artist's life is at threat. Artists do better these days to look at the world through many lenses, but artists know the lenses, and I suspect almost all of us see the world we are exposed to with crystal clarity. Life is always under threat, in some places more than others. So now a little bit of background has been built. Let's confront the topics. While Europe is about to silence its own people, South Africa, intent not to be left out, has said, "Hold my beer!" We are in for a bumpy ride, while much of the world, including my own country, turns into communist China. No, that is not a good thing. Since Article 13 and 11 have been pretty thoroughly discussed by other YouTubers, and since I live in South Africa, I'll be looking over the void from my spot on the arsehole of the planet. So let's move on to the first internet article. How the FPB Amendment Bill may hurt online content creators. Last night, the Film and Publications Board Amendment Bill quietly passed through the National Assembly. We at HTXT have been following the bill's progress with some concern, since it grants the FPB some pretty sweeping, some might say Orwellian power over content creators and platform holders. One only has to look at the board's recent decision to reclassify locally made film in Keba as X-18, effectively banning it from being shown in mainstream cinemas, as evidence of the power it could soon wield in the digital space. Now that it is out of the National Assembly, it's on its way to the National Council of Provinces. After that, the President could very well sign it to law, which would present some very big problems for those whose income depends on online entertainment. We spoke of self-styled recovering lawyer, formerly of Michelson's Nick Hall, and find out the ramifications of the bill are and what can be done about them. Last time we spoke to you, you said there were serious issues with FPB amendment bill that needed to be addressed. Have they been addressed? All in all, it seems to be an improvement, and a lot of the criticisms have been taken on board, but I still believe some underlying issues have not been dealt with. In terms of this amendment bill, the FPB would have the ability to investigate and prosecute private individuals for messages or communications that they post if they send them through social media or other online platforms, and provided someone complains. Should the FPB have this mandate? There's still the general question on how enforceable any of this is, especially against foreign platforms and sites, especially when it comes to classroom content. I'm uncomfortable with the FPB having the power to essentially switch off parts of the internet because foreign entities or individuals don't want to have their content classified by the board. How does this apply to something like YouTube? It is definitely a commercial online distributor, as per the definition. Does that mean it has to have all of its content classified? If it is assumed that user-generated content is not meant to be classified, even though it is being distributed through a commercial online distributor, how on earth is the FPB going to be able to monitor the non-user-generated content? Some issues have been addressed, but material issues of constitutionality, practicality, and enforceability are still there. What does this bill mean for content creators? Generally, this is bad news, particularly for YouTubers and streamers. Other content creators will be less affected. While the amendment bill will give the FPB the power to potentially classify any content uploaded online, including private communications, they generally will only have this power if someone complains to them about the specific content. Films and games are treated differently, however. Under the bill of distinction, it's made between commercial distributors and non-commercial distributors. Non-commercial distributors of films and games are treated much like the creators of other publications. Their content can only be classified if someone complains. However, commercial distributors are required to have their content classified prior to distribution or face criminal prosecution. This is considered commercial purposes. What is considered commercial purposes is unclear, however. Does enabling ads on your YouTube video mean it is now a commercial venture? Professional YouTubers and streamers will definitely need to have their content classified now. The content platforms, YouTube, Netflix, Stream, etc., themselves are also going to be required to register as distributors to pay an annual fee based off the number tiles they have in their library. How much oversight/power does it give the FPB? Quite a lot. As mentioned, they technically have the power to classify and potentially ban, as we saw with Inkaba, any online content provided someone complains to them about it. The other concern is that they have built-in provisions to allow them to enforce this system, one of which is to force, supposedly through how technically feasible this is remains to be seen, ISP to block access to content platforms that do not comply. What are the chances this will be signed into law? At the moment, quite good. From the National Assembly, which it has already passed, it will now go onto the National Council of Provinces, and I simply don't see them not passing it from there. It goes to the President to be signed into law. If it is, can it be challenged in some way? There are only 3 possible ways to prevent it now, assuming the National Council of Provinces doesn't reject it. First, the President can refuse to sign it and send it back to the National Assembly on the point that he thinks it is unconstitutional or constitutionally problematic. If this doesn't happen, any MP can ask the Constitutional Court to review it on the point that the amendment is unconstitutional. Finally, if it is passed into law, a private citizen or other body could potentially take up legal suit to get the now acted declaration declared unconstitutional. Alright, well that is from HTXT or hypertext. I'll put the links in all these web pages as I'm reading out of for you guys to have a look at on YouTube. This is really worrying stuff. Now we're on the conversation. Free to reproduce. Free to exploit. South Africa's Copyright Amendment Bill. Being an academic is like driving a car. We can all do it, but few of us actually know how a car is manufactured. When something goes wrong, we phone the Automobile Association. Similarly, as academics, we know how to write, but few have any idea how the publication value chains operates. When something goes wrong, we call the editor. The Academic and Non-Fiction Authors Association is like the AA for authors, and there's about to be a collision with the South African Copyright Amendment Bill. The general consensus of the recently organized symposium attended by copyright lawyers, law professors, university presses, journal editors, copyright officers, and other interested parties is that the proposed bill will hammer one more nail in the coffin of South Africa's ailing university system. The Copyright Amendment Bill applies to a very wide-range definition of fair use on all materials to be used for education. Free access to information is the cry, but as always, someone is paying. By eliminating the rights of educational authors and publishers and making all published work free to be reproduced, the bill could alienate authors from the fruits of their labor and the right to be cited. This is not about the same topic. Oh my god, I'm sorry guys, I'll move on from that one. Don't worry, I might include the link, but I don't think I will. I thought that was the same thing. Damn it. Anyway, here's the bill. I could read through the bill right now, but that's going to take a long time. This is like 30 pages. I mean, at first I thought it was only 6, but something was wrong with my reader here, and it was only showing 30 pages. But yeah, shall we move on to the next article? It's about to get a whole lot harder to stream and create video content in South Africa. This is Critical Hit Gaming. Right. Too far. We may not have a consistent supply of power to keep the lights on, but if there's one thing that South Africans do have, it's a level of freedom that we make the most of. In terms of entertainment, we've got it made. We can create content online, upload it and publish it without having to worry about a squad of goons bashing down our door or daring to publish a highlight reel of Apex Legends kills. This may be changing soon. The controversial amendment to the Film and Publications Act is now literally a signature away from being made law, as the bill recently got the nod from Parliament and the National Council of Provinces. Nick Hall. While we were worrying about load shedding, the Films and Publication Amendment Bill got passed by Parliament yesterday. We await the President's signature to bring it into law. What does this mean for you, the streamer, the content creator? According to the bill, failing to register with the FPB and uploading content could have dire consequences. Any person who knowingly distributes or exhibits in public a film or game without first having been registered with the board as a distributor or exhibitor of films or games shall be guilty of an offence and liable upon conviction to a fine not exceeding 150,000 rand or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 8 months, or to both a fine and such imprisonment. Imagine going to jail for uploading a stream of Apex Legends. Imagine sitting in a cell with rapists and murderers because you wanted to stream your games. Madness! It still remains to be seen just how FPB even plans to enforce these draconian rules once the president signs the bill. Even on a local scale, policing the internet is a massive task, and one that can only be done so by turning off access to it entirely. This applies to YouTubers as well, who do not do Let's Plays or show any game content. And remember, you'll need to get every stream in age classification before doing the stream somehow. According to the bill, our daily uploads are breaking the law, and I won't lie to you guys, I'm a little bit scared right now. Hell, storefronts like Steam and Good Old Games they'll need to register with the FPB before they're allowed to sell games locally. And you can just see all the shits they give right now for going through that process. It's a dark day for this country in more ways than one, but hopefully it's also the state of but hopefully it's also the start of a fight and a concerted effort from all spheres of media to take a stand against the fascist bill that is thinly disguised as being for the greater good of the nation. Alright, we'll move on to the next one. I think I'll be clipping these down. Okay. Why South Africa's online freedom is at risk. The Film and Publication Amendment Bill stands to change South African content creation drastically. In terms of entertainment, South Africa has certainly got a high level of freedom. We are able to create online content, upload it, and publish it without being worried about being cuffed. Until now. New bill to reproduce online freedoms. The amendment to the Film and Publications Act received the go-ahead from Parliament and the National Council of Provinces on 19 March 2019 and was sent to the President to be approved. All it takes is the signature of the President and it will be law. The bill was first introduced on 22nd November 2015, and after it lapsed in December 2017, the National Assembly agreed to revive it in February 2018. And now it is a signature away from becoming a reality for content creators all over. This means that if you fail to register to the Film and Publications Board and content is uploaded, well, let's just say that the consequences will not be too peachy. What the amendment bill means for your online freedom. The amendment to Film and Publications Act states that any person who knowingly distributes or exhibits in public a film or game without first having registered with the board as a distributor or exhibitor of films or games shall be guilty of an offence and liable, upon conviction, to a fine not exceeding 150,000 rand to imprisonment for a period of Let's start that one again. Any person who knowingly distributes or exhibits in public a film or game without first having registered with the board as a distributor or exhibitor of films or games shall be guilty of an offence and liable, upon conviction, to a fine not exceeding 150,000 rand or to an imprisonment for a period of not exceeding 8 months, or to both, a fine and such imprisonment. The biggest issue with this law is the implementation of it. If the president signs it off, as policing the internet is near impossible. However, it's not all bad. New bill brings positives. Let's see what they say is a positive about such a fucking draconian horseshittery law. However, there are many positives to this bill, such as the objects of the act are to be broadened to criminalize explicitly the possession, production, and distribution of child pornography and to create offences for non-compliance with classification of the board. This means that the main aim of the amendment bill is to curb online crime, which comes with the creating or distributing of content online. Well, that's the end of the article, and there's all sorts of strange London naked people. Alright, next article. Internet censorship bill will be set into Internet censorship bill set to be signed into law by Ramaphosa. Right. The National Assembly has officially passed the Films and Publication Amendment Bill, with the bill now scheduled to be sent to President Cyril Ramaphosa for assent. The bill aims to introduce a number of changes, including harsher rules to protect children from distributing and harmful content, disturbing and harmful content, and to regulate the online distribution of content such as films and games. Some of the other notable changes include revenge porn. Under the bill, any person who knowingly distributes private sexual photographs and films without prior consent and with intention to cause The said individual harmed shall be guilty of an offence and liable upon conviction. This includes a possible fine not exceeding 150,000 rand or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years, and or to both a fine and imprisonment not exceeding 2 years, where the individual is identified or where the individual is identified or identifiable in said photographs and films. This punishment rises to 300,000 rand fine and or imprisonment not exceeding 4 years. Hate speech. The bill states that any person who knowingly distributes in any medium, including the internet and social media, any film, game or publication which amounts to propaganda for war, incites imminent violence or advocates hate speech, shall be guilty of an offence. This includes a possible fine not exceeding 150,000 rand and or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years. They say this while just the other day they've let fucking that cunt that's trying to run for government, who isn't even a South African, they've let him off the hook for saying stuff like kill the Boer, kill the white man, kill, and then they've let him off the hook for fucking saying we're not going to kill all the white people yet. That's not fucking hate speech in this country, yet anything a white person says about a black person can be construed as hate speech. This country is fucking stupid. It's the fucking arsehole of the world, and that's why I call it that. ISP requirements. If an internet access provider has knowledge that its services are being used for the hosting or distribution of child pornography, propaganda for war, incitement of imminent violence, or advocating hatred based on an identifiable group characteristic, it shall immediately remove this content or be subject to a fine. Notably, some of the above changes have previously come under scrutiny from members of industry and the public over concerns that it would be used as a means of censorship and for online content. This has led to the bill being dubbed the Internet Censorship Bill, as it has made its way through Parliament. Censorship? According to dogmatic cull of specialized legal advice firm Ellipsis, the bill, which is on its way to President Cyril Ramaphosa, is extremely badly written. It's embarrassing that the document in its current form has gone through Parliament and made its way to the President, he said. However, Cole acknowledged that there is definite value in what the bill is trying to do. We know the content is being distributed online, and if you have made a decision that you want to give people information on what they want to consume, they should apply online and offline. We know that content is being distributed online, and if you have made a decision that you want to give people information on what they want to consume, this should apply online and offline. This is the same for DVD shops and Showmax. There is no difference, he said. It's still draconian. Who the fuck are you or anyone else to tell people what they can and can't consume? Look, child porn is a big problem in this world, but that doesn't mean you gotta fucking kill the person just to cut off his hand. You see what I'm saying? You're gonna kill online South Africa. Not everyone can register or wants to pay money for your shitty fucking governmental fucking shit. Suck my cock. Suck everyone in South Africa's cock. We don't want your bill. However, Cole said the problem is that the lawmakers don't fundamentally understand the environment they are legislating on. He added that the introduction bill means that there is definite potential for abuse in terms of infringement of free speech. One of my big objections here is that if I upload something which someone else finds objectionable and they think it's hate speech, they will be able to complain to the FPB, he said. If the FPB thinks the complaint is valid, they can then lodge a takedown notice to have all this material removed. Cole said this was problematic, as the FPB, which is appointed by government, should not be making decisions as to what is and isn't allowed speech under the South African Constitution. When we can see that the courts struggle with these issues, there's no place for politicians directly appointed by a minister to deal with them, he said. Questions around the bill. These sentiments were echoed by legal expert Nick Hall of Make Games SA, who said that there are a number of questions still surrounding the bill. The big question around the bill has always been enforceability and the likelihood of the FPB to do anything with it, he said. Practically, are they going to go after the small-scale YouTubers? No, probably not, as they don't have the means to do so. Instead, my concern has always been that the legislation becomes a tool for them to use censorship, he said. Hall said this was most evident when the FPB effectively censored the movie Nkaba, The Spear. The everyday person probably won't be affected, but the concern is that it gives a gateway for the people to start regulating content in a way that they should never really be allowed to do. He added that there is a number of amendments. Oh, fuck's sake, where am I gone now? He added that there are a number of amendments which are positive and which need to be introduced, specifically those surrounding child pornography and revenge porn. It's just that the attempts to regulate online content is incredibly ham-fisted, he said. This is where I got the bill from. We'll have a look at that later. Yeah, oh, looks like I'm getting all confused here. This is All Africa. National Assembly passes several bills. As the Fifth Parliament concludes its work in the next few weeks, it is pushing ahead by passing essential laws which are in line with the Constitution's values. On Tuesday, during the plenary sitting, the National Assembly passed the Public Audit Access Free Bill, Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, as well as the Films and Publication Amendment Bill. The Public Audit Access Free Bill seeks to provide blah blah blah. The Public Service Commission Amendment Bill seeks to amend blah blah blah. The Film and Publications Amendment Bill, on the other hand, seeks to amend the Act so as to align the definition of child pornography. It will also decriminalize the online distribution of adult content on all platforms, including digital platforms, and to provide for the establishment of co-regulation system that will allow for accreditation by the Board of Independent Classification Bodies to classify their own digital films, games and publications. Furthermore, the National Assembly also agreed that amending Section 25 of the Constitution to make expropriation of land without compensation as a legitimate option for land reform should be left for the 6th Democratic Parliament to conclude. Also agreed today were reports recommending appointments to the board of the South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC, and the Commission for Gender Equality, CGE, and immediate removal of the chairperson of the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA. Right, well, that was a short one. It wasn't very informative. Right, let's move on. Copyright one again. Close that one. Right, I'll cut it. Right, should we just move on? Okay. Internet censorship bill coming to South Africa. The South African National Assembly passed the Films and Publication Amendment Bill, dubbed the Internet Censorship Bill by critics earlier this month. And now, it is set to be signed into law. But what does this bill cover, and why are so many South Africans critical of it? Media Updates, Aislinn McCarthy explains that the Internet Censorship Bill will cover exactly what critics are concerned about. Please get rid of the "and" there, you fucking freaks. Come on, we want some grammar. This is why people stumble on these things, because you fuckers can't write properly. First things first, what is the bill all about? The Films and Publication Amendment Bill, at face value, is all about regulating content that is deemed inappropriate. Sounds great, right? Well, critics are not so sure. Critics are not so sure we need a pesky bill rooting around in our content and judging what is and isn't appropriate. Plus, there are concerns that the bill will be used as a means of censoring online content. It fucking well will. Look what happened with Zuma trying to goddamn stop an artist from having a painting. Who the fuck does he think he is? Does he think he's some kind of god or a king or something? He's a fucking president. He answers to us, the people. Pros of the bill. This bill aims to introduce a number of changes, including the regulation of online distribution of content, as well as stricter rules to protect children from harmful and disturbing content. The bill also aims to put a stop to revenge porn, where sexually explicit photographs and videos are distributed without consent as revenge after a breakup. After the bill, any person who knowingly distributes private sexual photographs and films without prior consent and with intention to cause the said individual harm shall be guilty of an offence and liable upon conviction. The bill also clearly wants to clamp down on hate speech. Any person who knowingly distributes content on any medium, including the internet, social media, films, games, and publication that incites violence, Yamalema, advocates hate speech, Yamalema, or amounts to propaganda for war, yes Malema, shall be considered guilty of an offence. The penalty for this, expect fines up to 150,000 Rand or up to 2 years imprisonment, or both. Internet service providers, ISPs, are also responsible for keeping tabs on content. The bill says that any ISP that has knowledge that its services are being used for hosting or distributing child pornography, war propaganda, incitement of violence, or advocating hatred based on an identifiable group characteristic will be required to remove the content or be liable for a fine. Cons of the bill. I presume this is going to be the longer one. Right. Many people have cited that the bill is poorly written, leaving much room for interpretation. In an article for Business Tech, Dominic Cull from specialized legal firm Ellipsis says the bill is extremely badly written. I've already read this one. I'm sure I read. I read through what he said. Is censorship imminent? Many of the amendments have come under severe scrutiny from both people in the media industry as well as members of the public. There are growing concerns that this bill could and will be used as a means of censorship of online content. It fucking well will. They want it for their censorship. They've been coming for this for years now. They want it. Speaking to Business Tech, legal expert Nicholas Hall said that while the bill is not intended to explicitly censor content, extending the powers of the FPB will have the effect of censoring certain content, as seen in the movie Inkaba. Further, Hall says that the FPB now has the power to classify and potentially ban content distributed through the internet, including films, games, newspapers, books, periodicals, pamphlets, posters, and other printed material, any writing of typescript that has in any manner been duplicated, any drawing, illustration, or painting, and print, photographs, engravings, or lithographs, and recorded magnetic tape, soundtrack, or any other object in which sound has been recorded for reproduction, computer software that is not a film, the cover of or package of a film, any figure, carving, statue, or model, any message or communication, including visual presentations placed on any distributed network, including but not limited to the internet. So in other words, artists must register themselves, any fucking artist, before they can show anyone their art online or by hand or any way. This is fucking stupid. What kind of a fucking retarded government does this? Love it or hate it, the bill is on its way to President Cyril Ramaphosa for approval. Chances are the internet censorship bill will become a part of South African law in the near future. So, all internet users, content producers, and ISPs need to keep an eye on it as it develops. The internet will die in this country. There will be a death to the internet. If we can't share stuff unless we're fucking registered, we won't be sharing anything. We can't. We'll be fucking thrown in jail or 150,000 Rand fine. What is wrong with you people? This isn't going to stop child pornography. This isn't going to stop hate speech. This is going to fucking make it worse. I'm telling you now, these kind of things will just go further into the underground and become more prolific. This is the way it works. It's better that we all speak to each other and our words are known. I don't know about child pornography. We can sort that out some other way. This will not work for it. But when it comes to freedom of speech, we have to be able to say what we need to say to each other, or else there will be no communication and this country will die. Democracy relies on freedom of speech. This country will not be a democracy. This country will be a dictatorship as soon as this law comes into place. The instant this law is starting to be enforced, there will be no democracy of South Africa. The Republic will become a fucking dictatorship. And they know it. It's the communists. They fucking want it. The communists in South Africa. And if you think that's some kind of conspiracy theory, there's a fucking communist party in this country. There's a goddamn fucking communist party in this country. And the ANC, they suck the communist party's cocks for them. Right. Now, I'm not going to go through the bill, but I'll include it in my links. And I think this will be the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope you'll join me again. Please like and click the bell in order to be informed if there's any more videos of mine that have come online that you might want to watch. Have a great day, and I hope my ranting hasn't ruined your day for you. Farewell, South Africans and the rest of the world.